In our world of today, people are becoming more and more politically divided against one another, and it's leading to the breakdown of our once peaceful society. In a world today where now anybody can just go online and let an algorithm suck them down a rabbit hole of ideological brainwashing nonsense which could come from all ends of the political aisle. So people now are just going online and getting put into whatever camp of thought are brainwashing without any conscious choice making on their part whatsoever. So in the internet era, politics and voting has become more childish than ever before. So for many people, it's no longer a matter of trying to figure out the best policy to tackle a situation, but rather which candidate or party will best represent my biased worldview. As people are now going around saying, I'm pro this or anti that, all this superficial thinking puts a roadblock in our ability to see the deeper dynamics at play of how a decisions made by those in power create a certain outcome, whether it be for the better or worse. So with this childish mindset in place, a lot of people now just take a democracy totally for granted. Let's rewind the clock back to 2,700 years ago in ancient Athens, when the first ever system of a democracy was created. At the time, citizens were amazed by the fact that for the first time ever, they got to have a say and active participation as to how the government is run. Now just bear in mind, the ancient Athenians had a very harsh outlook as to what counted as a citizen and what didn't. You could not be a citizen and participate if you are a woman. You could not participate if your parents were born outside Athens. And you could not participate if you were a slave, which is definitely not something that we want to promote nowadays. So the way it worked is that all citizens that were eligible were all expected to take part in two governing bodies, the bowl or council and the ecclesia or assembly. So with the ecclesia, it was an assembly which every citizen had to attend to talk about the big issues that affect everybody, and everybody was given the opportunity to say what was on their mind for no more than 6 minutes. As for the bowl, it was basically a council of 500 Athenian citizens all voted in by random draw by the ecclesia, and their job was to run and manage the ecclesia and also come up with new laws that could be spoken about at the ecclesia. But even though that it was the bowl coming up with all these new laws, it ultimately came down to a decision of the whole ecclesia, which was made up of the rest of the Athenian citizens, which would ultimately make the final choice of which laws would be written in or not. So with this political system in place, it basically created a culture where every citizen was expected to be engaged in politics and be quite intellectual about worldly affairs. And to not be interested in politics at the time was a huge social no-no. They were labelled as an idiot, which meant a private citizen who had no interest in politics whatsoever, and it was deeply looked down upon. So in our modern day and age, looking back on those ancient times, what's a key takeaway that we could learn from that? It's that there was a high bar set as to what it meant to be a good citizen. You had to be intellectual, you had to be quite intelligent, and you had to take politics and policy seriously. Which is what I'm here to teach you today, so you can go about voting in elections wisely as opposed to voting for a candidate or party based on shock or impulse. So here's a method that I came up with personally and used to go about making my voting choice in the last election. What you're going to do is you're going to grab a pen and paper, look up the political parties and find out what all their policies are. Then you're going to write them down, all the policies, each party on that paper. Then, with each policy that you personally agree with, you're going to mark a tick. And whichever party has the most policies you agree with, that's who you vote for. Easy, right? Now, at the end of the day, remember, it's not about which party wins or gets in power. The whole goal of this video is to help make people more conscientious voters, not idiots. Thank you all so much for watching. I hope you all found this video to be very insightful. Now, for those of you who are interested, I'm going to leave a video link to part 1 of my multi-part series about spiral dynamics. That is a model which talks about human psychology, and I think it will dovetail nicely with what I talked about in this video. I'm signing off.